Hi everyone, we are here for another live session, and today, it gives me a lot of pleasure to say that I have the privilege of having a very, very special guest with me today. It is Mukesh Parpiani, who is currently the head of NCPA. But of course, this is Mr. Parpiani. We are just waiting for him to join. He will be with us shortly. Good evening, Mr. Parpiani. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Madhavan. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much. As I was saying, it gives me great pleasure to have Mr. Parpiani here with me. It is a pleasure and a privilege because Mr. Parpiani is now he is the head of the Piramal Art Gallery at NCPA, the head of photography. But in his previous role, he was the photo editor of three significant daily newspapers. One was the Daily, the second one was Indian Express, and the third one was Midday. And he was the photo editor of these three publications at various points, of course, and for almost about 2.5 decades. And prior to that, he was also a photojournalist and an extremely, extremely good photojournalist. But that's not all. Mr. Parpiani has had the distinction of, in my mind, the distinction of having some of the most beautiful, some of the most incredible photojournalistic images of daily life, of Mumbai streets, and of having covered some of the most significant events in the history of India. So thank you for being with us on this, on our live session today, Mr. Parpiani. Thank you for joining us here.
Yeah, please.
So, Mr. Parpiani, you're an extremely senior person, so please excuse me if I'm asking you some untoward or difficult questions. But these are questions that I'm sure that all the readers and all the viewers of our channel would like to know. So, so my first question to you is that this is now your 50th year of photography. So this year, in fact, you're celebrating your 50 years of photography and 50 very eventful, very brilliant years since you took up photography as a profession. And you've had a lot of very significant moments. You've had moments that were historic, that were captured through your camera. How do you feel about 50 years of professional photography? How do you feel? Did you think when you began, did you think that it would be such an incredible journey so far?
Well, I began very, very long back, almost 16 and 70, when I did the Dr. Professor became Pillai at Indo Society. One after whatever courses he conducted, from picture composition, portraiture, darkroom, photo, one and all. But in those days, I never knew that my photography career is going to be so long. In fact, going to courses, I had no such at any newspaper places, because I was time covering events as and when I used but as and when the thing processed, almost 4 or 5 years I did such assignments. I felt now to study photography, 9 pictures. I have to buy a film, I have to make a frame.
Mr. Parpiani, just a second.
Yeah. So, I had as I said, I will buy a 35 mm roll and buy into paper and make a print in my homemade darkroom. You know, buy what you call aqua paper, buy a triax film, save. So I used to buy a Oreo in those days, do
Yeah.
a assignment. But after 5, 6 years, I felt, yeah, how long this will go on? We have to buy an album also. I hardly save anything. So I must try to diversify. I tried various options doing commercial photography, but then equipment's very expensive. RB67 I could not afford. So slowly I continued whatever I could do, and I did the courses at St. Xavier Institute of Communication on mass communications. I did the courses and started contributing my street pictures to the newspapers. There used to be a Sunday Standard Sunday paper which used to have a spread. There used to be a free press bulletin. They used to take my pictures, and then I also got few assignments from R.K. Karandia, the Popular Weekly. So I continued. In 91, I started the daily newspaper. Hired myself and Feroz Mistry in US. Both of us were hired as a full-time and we worked very hard as a tabloid newspaper. It was new. Already one evening was there, but there was no morning tabloid. And very fast. Suddenly there was an Indian Express also. So the circulation and the basic the best government. Newspaper.
You were mentioning Mr. Firoz. I think that was the point when it started breaking up.
Yes, the Feroz Mistry and myself covered the Mumbai very extensively, almost every day, full page of pictures.
Right.
Then there used to be, as I mentioned, there was a strike in Indian Express. So the circulation of the daily boomed and the all success was ours. Meanwhile, Mr. Karanjia had some issues, so he joined the hands with another group of company from Delhi, and we shifted from the Kavasti Patel Street to Kolaba, and we continued to work from there. And again, there under the new management, also we had a wonderful time. And after that, I got a call from. Meanwhile, yes, Feroz left me halfway, and he went abroad because he got a better offer. He went abroad. Then he had a this design daily newspaper called Sebastian D'Souza, the one who won the award last year.
Yes, the famous image. Yes.
I can join you. I said, yeah, you are most welcome. You can take a place of the Feroz, and we continue to work there for another 2, 3 years till I got the offer from the Indian Express to come and head a photography team there, because the most of them were very seniors and were on the verge of retirement. Mr. Vivek Goenka, then the executive director of the group, called me and we had a long discussion. I explained plans for the photo team. I asked for the biggest space for the photo department. We said, Mr. Parpiani, the 1 square feet you are standing here, how much that cost in Nariman Point? I said yes. Still he cooperated. He gave me more young hands to start the department. We started very well. We got all the equipments we were looking for, and then there was no looking back at Indian Express. Indian Express also had the other publications like Lok Satta, Jan Satta, Gujarati paper, Samkalin, Financial Express, Lok Prabha. So the reach of my photograph was much wider, and the best time of 10 years at the more than 10 years at the Indian Express. More than 3 to 4 exhibitions at LCPA. The picture shot year. In 1 year, so we got the entries from all the centers of India, and around 35-40 photographers were on the walls of NCPS Piramal Art Gallery. And because come out with a 4-page and 8-page supplements, and at the top of this are the best of the year, and that was also circulated in Western India wherever the Bombay edition used to go. Almost 10 years at the Indian Express. After 10 years, for 10 years we also tried to go digital. The Kargil war covered with a camera, the digital camera with the flop. Yes, so we got the pictures from Kargil on a floppy, and then by email. Email also used to take around 8 minutes to download one image. The connectivity was so slow, but it was just a birth of a digitalization. But by the time anything goes further, I moved to the midday newspaper. Again, there was a offer from for a better payments. Yeah, so the inning at the midday started after the beautiful inning at the Indian Express. Midday also, I lined up a team, took some new faces also, and started working as a team like I had formed a team at the Indian Express. And at the midday also, we had a wonderful inning. First, so they had already better darkroom facilities even before I joined. They had a Jobo processor. They had a Sony scanner which used to scan entire 36 frames in about 2 to 3 minutes. And then you take a digital printout and show it to the editor and the news desk, and the pictures goes on the pages directly through the server. So that much digitalization Midday had already done, except we were still using film camera. But the big digital SLRs were very expensive. So we said, let's wait till the prices come down. The Kodak had first launched the digital camera, but the price was very high. So we stayed on with the film as we were doing. Meantime, your better photography had a photo contest. We participated year after year. And if my memory is alive, I think between the Better Photography and Press Club Mumbai, we won more than 20 awards.
I remember that.
We also won. We won also 5-6 film camera SLRs at Nikon. So again, my foot was settled down in the for a successful photojournalist Bombay. Then we thought of buying the digital SLR. So then I put up a proposal for buying the digital SLR. Price was 4.5 lakh rupees. the Nikon D1, which was
The
one
D1, yes.
megapixel.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
was
it was one
one
megapixel.
megapixel.
That's right. Right.
So finally, Mr. Tariq Ansari said, you know, in 4.5 lakh, what you can buy? You can buy a flat in Mira Road. So again, kept quiet, but somehow we managed to buy one for us, Nikon D1 DSLR. We sent that Nikon D1 to the when Afghanistan war was going. The other correspondent who was carrying the laptop and the camera was riding a small nala on a horseback along with other journalists. And the horse jumped. So imagine what happened. Laptop and DSLR Nikon D1 went into the water. After it came back from the Afghanistan, we split Japan's report since it was inshore. But I'm telling you why photojournalism journey is not easy. It has a lot of speed breakers. After it came back from Afghanistan, went to Japan, it came back, it did paperback into cards. Anyhow, they sent us a new piece. So we continued the work with all important events. We used Nikon D1 1 megapixel, and the wherever it was possible, we will shoot on the film cameras. Meanwhile, we also bought the Nikon Coolpix camera. The actor was to pivot to photos also. So when there is no need and you just simple need a mugshot or a interview type of person, the reporter can also shoot. So that way quite cooperative and advancing in all as far as technical support. We had a wonderful photo station paper. Can archive any pictures in a fraction of a minute, you know, by just doing the proper caption and proper search.
Right.
So we had also wonderful support from the parts of the journalists also. They were a very good team after midday, and we continued there also. We bought another big speed breaker again. We bought one more that DSLR went to Bangalore to cover a cricket match. I don't know what happened, that DSLR got stolen from the hotel. So there have been ups and downs in the running the also, but still thanks to tackle. He was cooperated with us and almost the inning at the midday at the age of 58 years.
Right.
I think it's better time to say goodbye to photojournalism. But photojournalism not leaving me. It's continued. Then I was just relaxing for a month at home after retiring from midday. Then one day I got a call from the NCPA. The head of the Piramal Gallery, Mr. Praful Patel, who also hosted our 4-5 exhibitions in the gallery,
Of
got
course.
retired,
Of
and
course.
the NCPA was looking for a different person. So I went and met the chairman, I met general manager, I met all the vertical heads. They also wanted me to run the photo department to cover the NCPA events because what happens during PC Patel days, there used to have a freelancer who used to come half an hour or 1 hour every evening, shoot some pictures and give the prints next day. So there was not very exclusive coverage happening. So then I put up a proposal there for the two photographers, Narendra Dangia and Kiran Bhasin. They worked with me for a very long time, and we continued to, beside running the gallery, we started doing the covering the events day-to-day basis of the NCPA events, whether it is a dance, drama, music, theatre, or the Symphony Orchestra of India. There also we had a wonderful time. We had exhibitions. Meanwhile, Kiran Basin left, but the Narendra Dangia is still with me even after 10 years, and we are doing a wonderful work. And I am now almost done 69, 70 in that 10 years. I have not done less than 200 exhibitions there.
It's fantastic.
And beside that, we have organized at least one or two photo talks every month with the different photographers. And now,
Absolutely.
because of the corona problem, we are shut down, we are locked down. Now, once the things open, let's play something at the NCPA.
I think in the last decade, NCPA or Piramal Art Gallery has never ever been as active in since since the previous decades. It's the most active phase of Piramal Art Gallery happened after you joined, with its talks and exhibitions and with all the all the other activities that also keep happening on the World Photography Day. It's wonderful to see such a space that is entirely dedicated to photography in Mumbai. It is the only space, in fact, in the entire city of Bombay that is dedicated to the art of photography. And a great amount of thanks goes to you, and both to you and to Piramal Gallery as well as to NCPA to enable this to happen. So I think it's a wonderful thing to see. But
Total credit goes to, I am there only for just 10 years, but let me tell you, the gallery is there since last 30 years.
Of course.
And when it started in 1988, and I had my exhibition in 1989, the US historian Judith Mara, she gave her entire collection to us, and we had a wonderful first exhibition there. At that time, we also had a very wonderful backroom in 1989 in Bombay. Nobody had a Jobo processor. Nobody had in 1989 a Jobo film processor, which NCPA had.
Right.
And we also had a Sibacom prints, processing a transparency and making direct prints and exhibiting in gallery.
Right.
Was a very good advanced development NCPA did with the Piramal Gallery. They continued, and Mr. Praful Patel, entire credit goes to Mr. Patel and NCPA. I took him only 10 years back, and I am also trying to do my best, and I am sure I will continue to do the further good. Depends on all the blessings and cooperations of from all quarters of the photography fraternity.
No, but absolutely, I agree. But a large amount of the credit must go to you. I'm speaking as an outsider who has seen the earlier days and who is seeing what has happened in the last decade too. In fact, for the viewers who may not know this, NCPA Piramal Gallery in particular has got a incredible archive of photographs and sorry, incredible archive of photographs which is actually maintained in archival conditions. It is not just something that is
Yes,
just lying in any kind of environment. It is 24/7 humidified, dehumidified, air-conditioned environment. It is lying there. I've seen the space and some incredible books.
yes,
All these images have been donated by some of the greatest photographers who've exhibited, and it is now an incredible archive. In fact,
yes,
in the last decade or so, Mr. Parpiani has been instrumental in taking the prints out of the archive and actually putting it up on the walls of the gallery because once in a while, especially on World Photography Day. So this coming August, in World Photography Day, those of you who want to see a spectacular exhibition, and if the COVID-19 situation opens up, hopefully it will, at least in a planned or phased manner, please do visit the exhibition that goes on at NCPA at Piramala Gallery, set up by Mukesh Parpiani. Just let me ask another question. So, from the Daily to the Indian Express and to the Midday, the one constant that I've seen across your entire career path, all the way up to NCPA today, is a certain level of excellence. Like, for instance, when you were in the Indian Express, I remember that the photography that happened at the Express was incredible in those days. The same thing happened, as you mentioned, with Midday. There was a time when I remember Better Photography awarded, I think, 5 cameras. You took away all the prizes from that one contest, which was meant for photojournalism. Okay, it was a national level contest that we had, and Midday photographers took away all the prizes from every category. Okay, I think five of the latest DSLRs that Nikon sponsored, all went to Midday at that point of time. So success followed you, and I know a little bit about the reason why it also followed you because I'm in touch with some of the national photo editors who are there in the dailies today. All of them have been your employees. So today's national photo editors all have been your employees at one point or the other. So what they say is very interesting. They say that you were a taskmaster. You were very tough. You took no excuses. You never made any excuses for yourself either. If performance was expected of your employees, you would expect the same level of performance from yourself. And that was something that is incredible to hear from all your employees. So your employees today are all the national photo editors, and this is what they have to say, about Mukesh Parpiani during his younger days, that he was a very, very tough boss, but at the same time a boss who expected what he expected from his employees, or he would expect out of himself. So can you tell us something about being a very tough boss to the current batch of photo editors who are there today in newspapers? So what happened in those days? Do you think that they're correct in saying that you were a tough boss?
yes, I was a tough taskmaster, not only with them but with myself also.
Right.
If I expect my colleague to reach on one particular assignment at 7 a.m. in the morning, and if he is making faces, then say I am a tough. Then I am say I will tough. But it is not that I have not done the 7 o'clock assignments. If suddenly I was staying in Vadala and I get a call of something at Kurla, whether it is 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 11 o'clock night. So if it falls within my reachable area, I will also rush there. I will be tough with me. I will not say that, oh, you go from Thana or you from the Kalba Devi, you go to Kolaba. No, if it was, or if I knew that my person is busy at XYZ place, I will rush out myself irrespective of the looking at the watch.
Right.
So it is not any personal vendetta which I had. Whatever I was doing was for the newspaper and the betterment of the newspaper, betterment of the photo team. The obviously at the end of the year, we have to sit across the conference room on a KRA evaluations. So
Absolutely.
we
No, no,
obviously,
no, absolutely. In fact, Mr. Parpiani, if I remember, those were the times wherever you had gone into those particular papers, had the best photojournalism, across, I'm talking about from a national perspective, across papers in India, had some of the best photojournalism, and that was probably because of the way you pushed your team. But I remember, and in the early 2000s, we had spoken about this once. I remember you mentioning also that it was not just a one-sided thing. It was not just the expectation that you had from the team, but it was also, you were actually fighting your own battle for them on their behalf, for better salaries, for getting them all the employee benefits that every other employee got in the team. Can you tell us something about this at that point of time? Because I remember that journalism was not really, at that point of time especially, was not the best paying profession despite of all the risks that a photojournalist had to take at that point of time. So you're fighting for benefits, you're fighting for insurance. I remember you speaking to me about this. Tell us something about those days too.
yes, I tried my best. Why not only in the organization where I worked,
Correct.
but in the whole Bombay city. If any photojournalist has suffered any problem or anything it reminds me of the chief photographer of the Samna who was beaten up in a lathi charge at outside Kame Hospital. He was admitted there, but somehow you know how the hospitals are. So when I saw him next day morning, I was little bit worried. Uh, he requires a proper care and immediately I pulled up some strings. I did not even wait to call up the Matoshri in Kalanagar. And next day, Balasaheb Thackeray. Remember, the Suresh Kelkar was not only my friend, my fellow journalist, but a photographer for the Shiv Sena mouthpiece Samna. He came rushing there to the Kane hospital, and then everything went fine, and he was back into the work very fast. So somehow, sometime I have to take up the cause not only of my fellow colleagues at the newspaper where I work, or if they are running into any problems, personal problem or any other kind of problem, I always have helped them. As I told you, we lost the two D1 cameras, but still I stood by them that okay, no problem, we carry on, we will do something, we'll try to perform, we will be more careful, we'll ensure everything and see that uh, our apologies for all the problems, but they are not, they were all unexpected. So whenever there has been a problem in the Mumbai photojournalist fraternity, I have tried to do my best. There was another photojournalist from the what you call Asian age. He fell down from a bike and he was badly hurt and he was admitted in a hospital The next day when I went to just inquire, his parents were standing by and they were almost saying that we are helpless. I was in pain. Again, went to the office. I had to call up the Raj Bhavan to ensure that proper message is sent to the dean of the hospital and he's taken care of, is taken care of. And in those days where the photojournalists were not well paid that they can afford to go to any private hospitals, you have to go to the government or municipal hospitals. So whatever possible I have done, rest is for. In fact, whatever I have done, when I fell down 3 years back and was admitted in the New Bombay hospitals, and we had a very bad experiences with the doctors there. Again, it was the word spread. Gelato. He's gone. He's gone now.
I
He won't
remember.
be
I
back.
remember. Of course. Yes.
They started coming to me in New Bombay hospital. But today I'm here.
And we are very, very, and I'm very, very thankful to the powers that be that you're here. I remember that it was a very difficult time.
Credit goes to all my well wishers. Credit goes to Arvind Inamda. Credit goes to Press Club. Credit goes to my family. If I am alive today, it's all because of my karmas and the hard work of my family. That they put it up in those 2 months.
Of course.
Put it up in. Yes.
I think it was a difficult time, but also in a sense, the time when you were actually working on behalf of all those photojournalists from Bombay. It was also a very significant golden time also, because I don't think that before or even after there has been a period when there was a champion for photojournalism and photojournalists to do this. I mean, I remember that particular phase where salaries increased for photojournalists. At that point of time, from 7,500 rupees to 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees. I remember that within a very short duration of time, all the newspapers, because of your effort, started increasing their salaries, because they started realizing what kind of a job, what kind of risk photojournalists were taking, and that they have to treat photojournalists better, which was the outcome of your effort, which you put in during those days. But that was one part of what people saw about you, because the other part of what people saw, was inside the paper itself. Were the photographs that were there inside the paper. Okay, so you've been photographing constantly. You've been producing significant work constantly. From political figures to Bollywood film personalities, from the Mumbai police to the Mumbai riots, from disasters and floods to the Ganesh Visarjan photos that we used to see every year in the paper, to all those street photos, and a lot of them come to mind, because it does, hundreds of them actually come to mind, and thousands of them were published. You probably have more than 1,000 published photos, much more than 1,000 published photos, So the one question that I have is, you've been constantly at it, not just for the cause of photojournalists and photojournalism, but also as a photographer. And many of these photographs, the big difference that I see between your work and many other photojournalists. Other photojournalists are also very good. They have very composed shots. They are very good photographs. Okay, but the difference that I see is a certain level of involvement, a very personal involvement, and intimacy almost in your, which is visible also in your street photos, just as it is with all your political personality photos. How does that come about? How does someone become an involved photojournalist? How does one become a photojournalist who is intimate with the subject in that manner, which is very difficult to achieve?
Yes, yes, very, very difficult and sometimes very painful also. You mentioned about Ganpati pictures. When I was in the Indian Express, just before the Ganpati immersion started, the Ganpati Mahamandal had announced that the photographers will not be allowed to go inside the water and take the pictures while the statues are being immersed. I said, how can it be possible? If I'm shooting a picture at the 10 o'clock in the Lal Bagh and publishing at 7 o'clock in the morning, then where is the immersion picture? For the newspaper, the latest picture should go. So I must get the immersion picture. So I put up the one photographer, Mohan Bane. I told him to go and fix up a fisherman at the Badwar Park in the Top Parade, hire a boat and go and get into boat, wait in the mid-sea. When almost the Ganesha idol is come inside, I need that picture at 7 o'clock evening, short picture after it has been immersion. But at the same time, I just did not wait because I was doing it for the first time. So I planted myself at Chopati and I showed those Chopati pictures also. But luckily, Mohan Bane came with a wonderful picture. Lord Ganesha almost half submerged.
I remember that, yes.
Silent waters of the Arabian Sea. In the backdrop of the 7 p.m. sky, and went 6 column.
Right.
The Lok Sabha, Indian Express, and our Samkalin editor, Hasmukh Gandhi.
Right.
He carried it in colors. So imagine, the half paper of the broadsheet was only a picture.
Right.
Unless you take initiative, you take interest, you involve your team, stand by them if there is any problem. For a moment, he was a little bothered that tomorrow if the Maharashtra Ganpati Mahamandal will bring a coach. No?
Right.
Hey, don't worry, nothing will happen. We'll take care of it. We are not multiplated idols. We are not publishing the multiplated idols which get washed ashore next afternoon. We are not doing that.
Right.
So we did good thing. Next year, I said now this has been done. So I put one person in the sea. And since I had almost done that scoop picture. So all other newspaper also hired the boats and landed up there. And all 4 to 5 boats all along the Arabian Sea. Oh, we will also get this year this picture.
So that's the time when you decided to take a helicopter.
So that time I again told my crime reporter that our police commissioner takes sorties around the Chowpatty. So please tell him to accommodate me, and the police commissioner can't say no to a crime reporter. So, so I got along with him, shot a aerial shot again 6 column. I will stop there. Third year,
Right.
they were wondering what will I do, and even I was wondering because I had no plan 3. The only mid-sea and Chowpatty and the helicopter. So then police commissioner, no, this time nobody will come.
Right.
He did not allow anyone to fly. So I was said, okay, fine. Then we use Chowpatty picture and the mid-sea picture. What else? We have nothing options. So one person was shooting on the Chowpatty sands, and I was also walking on the sands after shooting 8-10 images, and I was waiting for the big Ganpatis from Khetwadi to arrive. And suddenly I saw J.R.D. Tata in the middle of lakhs of people with a friend of his with his chappals in the hand, merging inside the crowd of what, easily 2 lakhs on the last day of Ganpati immersion.
Of course, it's like you can't make out a single face there, right?
Yeah. So suddenly it is my luck that he came in front of my camera and I recognized him. I recognized him, and luckily, third year we had no Ganesha pictures on page 1, but we had a J.R.D. Tata walking with a chappal in the hand, barefoot. That went page 1. So
Let
this
me
is the Ganesha.
let me ask you about, since you mentioned that sometimes there are images. So Mr. Parpiani, I wanted to ask you this, and this is a very, very important question. Um, Being a sensitive photojournalist is critical. I think to the idea of becoming an involved photojournalist. The sensitivity of a photographer is I think the decisive factor in whether what makes a good photojournalist and an average photojournalist. I remember the case of Aruna Shanbag, where you were I think you were the only photographer to actually have a few photos, and despite the access that you had, because you kept getting invited by the hospital, and I think you were able to actually go and attend several functions, but you did not take a second photo. You shot a few frames, but you did not make photos later on, or even if you did, you did not publish them. And that one photo that you had produced was used time and again and again, across the years, across various newspapers. And I remember this because that's a very iconic image of Aruna Shambag. Um, for those of you who may not know the history of Aruna Shanbag, she was a nurse who was in coma for a very long time. In 2010, approximately, her colleagues, her family decided to move the court for euthanasia, okay, which was basically to euthanize her. So to basically stop all the life-saving equipment from keeping her alive. It was a big thing, and the hospital where she was, the staff and everyone had taken extremely good care of her for the many years that she was in a coma. So it was a very important story for hospitals in Bombay, and this was a very important image which kept getting used year after year. But why didn't you make second images? Why didn't you shoot the story? Why did you not shoot?
let me tell you, Mr. Madhavan, that yes, I am very sensitive. And also, let me clarify that I was never invited by the hospital to come and shoot her pictures. In fact, I was prevented multiple times from taking her pictures. But if I happen to be at the Came hospital of for some other story, I will do Shakshat Namaskar to her room, which used to be remain locked, you know. And one afternoon after she was given a bath and she was dressed up and the was lying on her bed, I saw the door open. Remember, it was the Nikon FM camera shutter which makes noise. I said, now this is the time. I just pulled out quickly my camera from my bag and I clicked the 2 frames. But see the just sound of the shutter, she got tense. She got so tense that somebody has entered her room, you know. And that expressions on her face, I came out. I gave the picture to Midday because in those days I was freelancing in Midday. Behram Contractor was the editor because Midday was carrying everyday stories about Aruna Shanbag, but they had no picture. So I knew they are carrying the stories, they don't have a picture, but those a 2 shutter clicks and her noise made me very sensitive. And then I said, no, I will never come here and shoot her again. In fact, then the other papers also told me, now, why don't you go after you almost, that was a story of 80s, go and shoot her. I said, no, I will not go and disturb her. If you want to use that picture, you use it, or you carry your story without the picture. I said, and even I am very sensitive. I keep on seeing the road accidents on the roads. I keep on seeing the blast, like 1993 blast. In the blast, I was in the office at the adjoining building, Air India building. We rushed downstairs and we shot bodies all around. We rushed to the stock exchange, but we tried to use the minimum painful picture because we cannot the blast, but at least we use the minimum painful picture of the record. But coming back to Aruna Shanbag, when she died, I said at least I could cover her funeral. We dropped by. I carried the camera also, but I did not go to the cremation. So yes, I am sensitive.
Right, right. Absolutely, I completely. It was a very wonderful last 1 hour that we had, which is the reason why we are now moving into the second. In fact, we have a fairly good number of viewers just, waiting to, very serious viewers who are listening to what you have to say about your career and your and some of the questions that I have for you. So you mentioned that being sensitive, you're a very sensitive individual. I completely agree. You mentioned in particular about the riots that you photographed. One of the most incredible images to come out of the riots has been the image of the lady carrying her belongings and running, and let me just, for the viewers who may not have seen this photograph, just let me describe the situation. There's this woman who's carrying a big bundle on her head, in her other arm, in her other hand, she is carrying a suitcase. Okay, and she's running on the street. She's running across in the street. You can clearly make out her face and the worry lines on her forehead. I remember that photograph very, very clearly because of her expression on her face. And in the background, you can see a lot of people who are actually also running, and there are two pillars of smoke that is coming out in the background. I remember that this photograph very, very clearly. You know, another photograph that I remember very, very clearly is of our ex-Prime Minister, late Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was, I think, visiting Bhiwandi, if I'm not mistaken, the right affected areas in Bhiwandi. And I remember that incredible photograph that Mr. Parpiani had shot of her meeting some of the right affected people. At first glance, when you look at the photo, because the first thing that you obviously see is Mrs. Indira Gandhi's face. You know, you would see her face and the look of disgust on her face. You know, so there's this expression of disgust on her face, and you're wondering, why is the Prime Minister of the country disgusted when she's around poor people? You know, riot-affected people. And then when you examine the photo a little closer, you will find that there is one of the ladies who's carrying a small child, pinching the child so that the child cries, you know, in front of Indira Gandhi. So that's the scene in the photo, and it was perfectly captured, you know, by Mr. Parpiani. So these are some of the moments that, you know, very iconic moments that I remember of Mr. Parpiani's photojournalism. You know, which also brings me to the next question. You know, so there was this one statement that you made in an interview, in fact, with Better Photography many years back. You mentioned in that interview that all that is required for good photojournalism is the truth, and nothing more than that truth. The photo does not need embellishments. You don't need to make the photo look interesting. All you need is the truth. You mentioned this once in an interview. Can you elaborate on that? Do you still believe that is the case?
You see, I believe you are referring to the adding the subject to the pictures?
That's right. So what you had, in terms of depicting the subject or talking about the subject in the pictures, you had mentioned that what is needed is the truth and nothing more than the truth. What is required is not embellishment. You don't need to change the angle. You don't need to, you know, what you need to do is to focus on the real truth of the situation, and that is good photojournalism.
Yes, if I am doing, I have gone on a news assignment and I am covering something. My camera will see only what is seen there. I will not tell X, Y, Z that please come in the frame and do this, or you walk from right to left, or you bring a glass of water for the person who has met in the accident. No, I will not do any such of kind, or I will not play any arranged pictures. That what truthfully has come in the front of camera will get clicked with my finger. So that is my big thing. And the Indira Gandhi picture which you mentioned is a very good example that at the refugee camp, one lady is crying very badly in front of Mrs. Gandhi to get her sympathy. But in her hands there is a small child. In her hand there is a small child. And the child is not crying. The child is looking at Mrs. Gandhi, that who's come to our house, you know, who's come here.
Oh, wow, okay, right.
So this picture you are seeing, but you see, the lady is pinching the hands of the child so that the child can cry, you know, child should cry. Mrs. Gandhi has noticed the game being played there. But the next day when I published the picture, my other fellow journalist, obviously this was a Mrs. Gandhi's visit, so other photographers were around me. So they asked me, when did you click this picture? I think when you were coming up to me, when I'm sleeping, and my eyes, one eye is shut, my the other eye is totally focused on my viewfinder, and it goes clicking. Remember those there no water drive cameras.
Right.
It was
It was
Nikon
one
and
single frame. It was one single frame. It was entirely analog and with film.
yes, 1984, you know, or 1982. Sorry, yes. Then I want to also show you the riot picture of the Asalpa village.
Right.
Right now,
That was the image that I was talking about.
that's my son Kashish is helping me out.
Oh, okay. Kashish, can you hold the camera a little further behind because it's not being focused. Just hold the
Okay.
camera a little further behind. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
This is the Asalpa fire. During the riot, one chemical godown was set on fire in Asalpa village, Ghatopar. And the people living around there rushed, and this lady is one of them, rushing with her belongings to safer place there because those chemical godowns had a big drums, and big drums were bursting and going as far as 60, 70 feet in the height and falling all around, you know. So there was total panic there. And while I was entering that place, and I from far I saw that she running. Immediately I clicked the frame. But let me also tell you that after 8, 10 days, I was worried where this woman must have gone. And I again said, let me take a chakkar. I might find a picture, some different picture after a week. So one morning I went there and I found the lady was back in her home, and it is a small one-room tenement there, and she was giving a bath to his son to send him to the school. So the things were pretty settled down within 2, 3 days in that area.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's one. It's interesting that you mentioned that you went back, and I think this is something that you mentioned even with other incidences with others of your subjects. You went back to check on them after the photo was taken. You went back to see what had happened to them, whether they were okay after you made the picture. So that is something that is actually quite rare and a wonderful thing that you kept doing. It's something that is rare nowadays, I think, with photojournalists. So we have Prakash Tilokani, who has just joined, and Prakash Tilokani, as is one of the leading wedding photographers of the country, and he has a question. Sir, looking back to your journey, how do you feel? Have you got what you deserve? Did you get more than what you deserved or less than what you deserved? This is a very interesting question that just popped up on the screen from Prakash. So, what do you feel? It's a good question that I would also like to ask you.
See, if you think of any human being, even what Tata Birlas have got, they are not satisfied. But in last 1 month, what I am sitting back at home, going back through my journey, going back through my old pictures, thinking about what should I do, what should I do to get back to the NCPA gallery back in the full form as it was. So these are the only things are in my priority on my mind, because I am at home at the age of 70. I don't want to risk myself and move. Although I went to Bhopal gas tragedy and I don't, but at the age of 70, I don't want to cover this corona especially on the health issue fight. But as far as coming to Prakash's question, yes, people are never satisfied what they have got, but in last 1 month, I have realized that in my life, I have got more than what I deserve. I had a wonderful guru like Professor Pillai. I had a wonderful newspaper barons from the Ramnath Goenka, Vivek Goenka to Tariq Ansari, and now the big gentleman, Mr. Santok, whom we have met also at
Right.
NC. So and my gratitudes are there now. I am quite well satisfied and contented. I am very happy person now for what all I have achieved so far, and the what I have achieved has come on my way. I just keep on doing my work. I worship my work. As I told you, in whether it is photojournalism days or it is the NCPA days, and the when we exhibit anything, I try my best to promote it. And whenever there is no show, especially people in monsoon don't prefer to do the shows, so I take out the pictures from our archive, salute the people like Kishore Parekh, salute Raghunath Singh, salute Jyoti Bhatt, S. Paul. Yes, S.
Yes,
Paul
Paul.
has been my childhood favorite. So whoever's legends' works are with us, we keep on exhibiting in our gallery, irrespective whether I have a down footfall or no. But whoever lands up should not go back without seeing the pictures on the walls of the gallery. That's my motto.
Absolutely. That's commendable, and that's really incredibly commendable.
Very
Because
contented.
what I was saying was that was commendable because it doesn't matter if it's 5 people who look at the works of these masters or whether it is 100 people who look at the works of these masters. I think those works that are displayed will talk to anyone, and even if it's just 5 people or 5 pairs of eyes that see it, it is 5 people who are going back with a certain sensibility, with a certain idea in their minds, of a certain era. Coming to the exhibits, Mr. Parpiani, I have one immense request from you. You must do an exhibition of your work once more, of your lifetime brilliant work. Must happen, and it not for just 1 or 2 days. It must happen for an entire 10 days. And I think that it is time, and I think it is. You've been exhibiting the works of so many photographers and so many people. You must have an exhibition of your personal work filling each and every space in the gallery wall. So that is my earnest request to you. Kashish, if you are listening in, this must happen, and it must happen as soon as the COVID-19 opens up. As soon as the things open up, please let's plan something. I think it is something that everyone would love to see. So because it is important that your works be appreciated by today's younger generation.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Madhavan, I'll fulfill your request. I will give you a very wonderful show of mine, and I promise you it will happen in 2020.
Awesome. Excellent.
But before that, I have to feature this so many photographers. They currently running around all the cities of India, whether it is Gujarat or whether it is in the northern India or in Bihar or in Maharashtra, and documenting the corona virus effects on all of us, on the humanity. I will like to do their show first, and then comes Mukesh Parpiani. Yes, Mukesh Parpiani can wait.
Not for us. But yes, we take your point. as the head of the Piramal Gallery of NCPA, you have a responsibility to the other photographers who have signed up already. But please, this year you must have an exhibition that spans 10 days, not just 1 or 2 days, but please 10 days.
Promise.
From one weekend to the next weekend. Where
Sure.
people can come and look at your work, and we might, and I would like to also make a small film on the exhibit and on you at that point of time. So because 50 years is a huge, incredible long journey, and I've seen the kind of quality of work that you have put out, over all these years. Now, I have one more question for you, and after that, there are a couple of questions that we'll accept from the audience as well. Okay, so the question is actually something that actually came earlier. I think Kamal Jain asked this question, as well as I think a couple of others asked the same question. Newspapers nowadays. I remember the time when you were the photo editor in newspapers, there were photographs, huge photographs on the first page. And these were not just any photograph. The photograph made sense. They were important photos on the first page. Even if you open the newspaper in the second and third pages, you could find photographs of merit. Okay, memorable photographs that we remember even today. Okay, but let me talk about the newspapers before the lockdown happened. Let me talk about the few months of newspapers. I don't remember a single photo that was published in some of these papers. The front page photo has gone completely missing. So what are your thoughts on newspaper journalism, photojournalism today? What needs to be done about it? Is it the sign of the times? Because viewers like me, I'm sure, and like a lot of people, would love to see important, good photos in the papers, but they're just not there. What would you like to say about that? Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I will discuss this with you at a length. But just coming back to your point, I would like to show you a double spread in the Sunday Times of India, which is a 4-page edition by the India.com on 16th April 2020, exactly 20 years back. You can see these pictures on this spread on the inside of the Sunday Times. All these pictures are mine, and these pictures were downloaded by India.com from my photo CD, which I marketed in the year 2000. So,
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
this incident. I remember this
yes.
incident.
So, where do you find this now? You don't find it, nor do I find it, but because post what you call it in sometime post 2000, when the .com was hitting the market, they said photojournalism is dead. We need celebrities, we need glamour, we need fashion, and we need parties at night to come on our pages. That's why the supplements like Bombay Times were started. But then very soon, the publishers of the newspaper started taking money for publishing those pictures on page one of such supplements. So they said, why we take street picture on page one? Why we take accident picture on page one? Why we need a prime minister on page one every time he comes? So I remember the days when even the prime minister was in Bombay and it was not featured on the page one. So there was a time, and it was time still there, that the marketing people dominates the editorial department. If marketing people have some picture which is benefit to get an ad or something, obviously they are obliged, and the news picture goes inside. And as I told you, the Vivek Goenka said, that you know how much 1 square feet cost here? Sadiq Ansari said 4.5 lakh, you get a flat in Minder. Similarly, the publishers are telling, you know how much 6 column space on page 1 cost? No big pictures now. That's the space we need for advertisements. So this is the situation of the print media. What you and I or any photo editors or photojournalists or even the big editors can't do anything like that. So, but let me tell you, in last year in the gallery, lot of people again reminded me that photojournalism is dead. Why you are still pursuing the photojournalism in gallery? They shouted at me. I said, okay, just keep cool. Photojournalism is coming back. Even in one of my pamphlet, I said 2020 is going to be a year of photojournalism. And you have all photojournalists a year-long work on your platter now. Keep shooting. And now no more parties, no more film shootings, no more money coming in from the film stars. You know, no more money coming from film star. You put me. So obviously, newspapers will have to publish the news pictures. They can't go blank, page 1. There are no R.K. Lakshman now. So the picture is going to dominate once again. Take it from me. But yes, same responsibility stems from photojournalist side also. That yes, you bring the picture which deserves the page 1. The picture which deserves the page 1. Whether it's a press conference or it is just a visit or it is a function, you must look around to find a picture after shooting the event picture. Shooting an event picture of the function. Like I will tell you that Rajiv Gandhi came to visit the Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Everybody shot the picture of the Rajiv Gandhi and the Frontier Gandhi and the doctors around him. I shot the picture. But I will say I will not crop that picture. Because there used to be a doctor who was very publicity hungry. Any event, when he sees the photojournalists around, he will see that he stands center of the attraction. If Rajiv is on one side, Khan Abdul Ghaffar on other side, and he will stand right in the center so that next day he is on the newspapers. So I never wanted that picture, irrespective Rajiv came. So I waited, I said, okay, fine, if Frontier Gandhi is being discharged now, I will use only picture. I will only use the picture Frontier Gandhi leaving the hospital on a wheelchair. Forget. Maybe Rajiv Gandhi has other events in the city, so we'll cover that. But I don't want this person mixing into my picture. I cannot crop it. There was no Photoshop. And even if it is a Photoshop, why should I do it? I want my picture to be straight. But again, when he was being wheeled out from the room, on adjoining room there was a child born. The gentleman brought that child out and took the blessings of that child. Frontier Gandhi blessed him, and that made my page 1 picture. That made my page 1 picture. You have also published that picture in the better photography. And after 4 or 5 years, I was covering municipal elections, and I was outside a counting center. And suddenly, from a blue moon, one child comes and tries to pull a rifle off the top,
Oh
and
yeah.
my shutter clicked.
Oh, that was a wonderful, wonderful
my
photograph.
my shutter clicked. I never knew that it is the same child. After 10 minutes, the father.
Oh, okay, okay.
After 10 minutes, father was searching. After father was searching for a daughter, he came and told me, Mukesh bhai, this is my same daughter, which you shot in Bombay Hospital with Frontier Gandhi. So when you worship your work, you keep on getting the wonderful pictures. And this picture also went on the coffee table book of Mumbai Police. They had hundreds
Right,
of other.
right. Absolutely, I remember that.
Yes.
I had no idea that, it was the same child. Yes, you once did mention it, but, it's an incredible story. That is the same child who was blessed by Frontier Gandhi, and that you had shot both the pictures at that. And that happens only when you're an involved photographer, when you're ready to accept what is happening. You know. So there's a question by Naveen Krishnan who is asking you, what is your take on citizen journalism where everybody is equipped with a camera? Today, in fact, let me just add to that question a bit. Naveen, if you don't mind, I'll add to that question a bit. Today, what is happening is that there are agencies that are actually looking at all the cell phone photos that have been shot in the vicinity of a certain area, okay, where an event has occurred, and then they would rather use those photos, okay, rather than photojournalist photos because it is cheaper. So there is something like citizen journalism also, and everyone is equipped with a camera because of their cell phones. So what's your what would you like to say about that?
See, this citizen journalism is very active now, but in the earlier days also, when the mobile has just come new, the people started shooting the pictures with the mobile, and when we reached the news spots, my looking around was that yes, I have reached here, I have shot the picture, but if someone from the around me, a panwala or a XYZ or a passerby who was standing around has shot the picture before I came, and it did happen, and I did get those pictures which were more lively than of the pictures which I shot. So obviously we have used such pictures with due credit to him. So citizen journalism has to be encouraged. As I told you that we have given the journalists a small full-pix camera, that in case you run into some pictures, please shoot, because in those days there was no mobile. So I welcome the citizen voice. It is a plus point.
Okay. Okay. We have a question here from, right. So it's a quintessential question, especially in today's times, with what is happening with COVID-19 and what we've seen over the last few years has been that there's been a lot of photojournalists who've also been laid off. There have been a lot of layoffs. There's been a lot of turmoil in that particular area of photojournalism, especially news photojournalism. There have been the very senior people, yes, they have continued, but it has become a little bit more difficult for younger photographers who want to enter into, let's say, photojournalism. But there are a lot of people who want to enter photojournalism because they believe in it, because they want to be photojournalists or documentary photographers. What would be a message to them?
See, the time is going to be a tough, especially for those who are coming into and wants to become a photojournalist. There are going to be problems and problems and problems, both from the management of the newspaper as well as from the on the field also. So obviously everybody will need a bread and butter. So those who want to become a photojournalist will have to do other activities also and ensure that you have to, and those who are already in employment, they will have to fight for their survival. You can't just overnight send a message on mail that 15 journalists are not required in our organization. You can't do that. You can't do that. So obviously, I'm sure the journalistic fraternity will rise to this occasion and will do the needful. I'm sure they will do something. We have to keep a patience.
Right. These are key professions, they're very important professions, as you mentioned. Going forward, photojournalism will again rise up and become an extremely important part of our lives. Mr. Parpiani, it has been a very wonderful session of interviews. Thank you so much for answering all the questions, not just my questions, but also the viewers' questions. It is my privilege to have you here. And as you promised, we must, in the short run within this year, please let us see a wonderful exhibition from your side as well of your most iconic work. And any support that I can provide from Better Photography side to have this exhibition on and for your work to get publicly noticed by the rest of the world, especially the younger generation in today's times need to see your work. There is a disconnect, I believe, disconnect between the generations. There is a certain in-between generation, like me, for instance, who have seen the old and who've seen the new, but today's young generation is pretty much disconnected with what the older generation has done. And so for them especially, it would be an amazing journey for them to go back and see the kind of work that has been done during the last 30 or 40 years.
I have a request to make that those journalists or any photographers who are documenting the current corona crisis should get in touch with me, and once the crisis gets over, I would like to compile an exhibitions to put up at the NCPA. So please be in touch with me either on Facebook or on my email or on my WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is 810-800-3311 and my email is mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com. Thank you very much for bearing me for too long sessions.
No. Usually when the sessions are really, really interesting, we go into a second live because these are important sessions for us to understand what went on in those days, what happened during those times, and to understand perspectives. And especially coming from you, we are going to have this session recorded and put up onto our stories so that people can also see it and get ideas from this session. Again, to repeat what we just said, all the viewers, please take note that Mukesh Parpiani is organizing a special exhibition for COVID-19, and anybody who has made any kind of pictures during this time should write to Mr. Parpiani at Mukesh. I'm sorry, could you repeat the Gmail again, please?
Mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com.
So mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com. That is the email address, mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com. you can find this email address. You can also message Mr. Parpiani directly on his Instagram page, or if you're having an issue or difficulty getting any images across, you can also send emails to Better Photography at madhavan.pillai@betterphotography.in. I will definitely make sure that Mr. Parpiani has got it. So, Mr. Parpiani, thank you so much for having this wonderful live session with us. As I said, it is a real privilege and a real pleasure to have you on board with Better Photography. Please do take care, sir, and all the very best for the lockdown period. So thank you all the viewers as well for coming and joining in. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good night.
Good night.